Welcome all of you to another episode of Friday at 5. This is the 16th episode every week, except for the Diwali week. We have been meeting online for about exactly an hour, and we have been discussing topics which are of interest to all of us as educators, as school leaders. And these topics are also important because the whole environment of schooling has changed, partly because of COVID, blended learning has come in, and partly because the national education policy has been announced, and that is set to implement a lot of reforms, major reforms in the schools. So the first year of the third decade of the 21st century um, is going to be the year of change. Um, the system is going to change, and therefore, for us to survive and grow, it is important that we also start changing the way some of the things have been happening. So, when I say changing, I don't mean that we have to do huge things differently, but we have to relearn some of the essential skills that are there and implement them in the classrooms. Some of these things we are theoretically aware of, but we may not have emphasized much in our classrooms. Maybe in the next 10 years or so, we'll see a lot of those things being implemented in the classrooms as we move ahead. The topic for today is student teacher relationship. Um, and I was reading an article in Education Week where um, it cited that they had a review of about 46 research studies, which found out that the teacher student relationship impacts almost everything that schools want to measure. And from my own life, the only reason I'm a mathematician is because of two teachers. Uh, well, actually, three teachers. One was Mrs. Das, who taught me in seventh class when I was in DPS Mathura Road. She was a lovely lady. I loved her so much that on the eighth, when I went to eighth class and I found out that Mrs. Das is going to be teaching us mathematics and she is going to be my class teacher, I was so happy that I can't even tell you. So that bond that I had with Mrs. Das made me look at mathematics. I spent most of my time doing math homework. मतलब मुझे इंग्लिश साइंस कुछ नहीं समझ आता था, but I definitely wanted to make sure that Mrs. Das was happy when I go with my math notebook. And the second Professor VP Srivastava. He was teaching at Delhi University. I just loved him as a person, and the reason I chose topology as my research area and PhD is because Professor Srivastava taught topology. Uh, Sometimes I wish that he could have taught statistics or differential equations because topology is pretty difficult. So I ended up doing that. So I've had a huge influence on my choice of career because of the relationship I had with these teachers. And we're going to be talking a lot about these, and I could not have asked for a better uh, panel to talk about some of these issues. We have with us Mrs. Meenakshi Kushwaha. She is the principal of Birla Vidya Niketan Pushpvihar, Delhi, and she is also a member of the advisory board of ICSL. We also have Meenakshi Sahni she's a principal of modern school Vasant Vihar. Um, and the only thing, is that I don't know, the moment I say modern school, as a dip site, I have to think about the modern and DPS rivalry. But obviously now I don't have any grudges against modernites. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for coming on the show for us. We also have Mrs. Charu Meni. She is the principal of DAV, Public School Sector 49, Gurgaon. And we have Dr. Sangeeta Arora, who is the principal of KR Mangalam World School in GK2, Delhi. So just to set the ball rolling, we have a lot of questions. And what we feel is that one of the first, questions that Dr. Anuradha Mehta, in fact, had said, the respect and regard for teachers that students had has gone down. So what really went wrong? Why is it that the students do not respect their teachers? So, Mrs. Kushwaha, I mean, would you want to elaborate slightly as to what the condition is right now in our schools in terms of the relationship?
Certainly, certainly. Atul, thank you so much for inviting me. And trust me, this is one of my favorite topics. And I often give a lot of gyan to my friends and teachers on this very topic. Now, coming straight to the question, as I know there's a paucity of time, coming straight to the question, I feel that children haven't changed, but somehow teachers have changed. Because when children come to us in class nursery, um, they are the same, I would say. Of course, they're coming from varied parental backgrounds, home backgrounds, and things like those. But then, if we set the right tone, right when we get a 3-year-old child in with us, I don't think the child will ever mess up with the teacher student relationship. And very rightly, you said that children love to please teachers they like. And hence, we have to build that kind of relationship that that these children like us, that these children love us. There is a difference between children of yesteryears and what we have today. They don't like to be, kuchi-cooed and pampered and things like those. But, they have that feeling, I'm a big boy or I'm a girl, and I don't want to be discriminated as a boy or a girl, and I can do this. That somewhat, that ego is there, and which I think that some bit of ego should be there also. So if you really remain simple, that's very important. You be realistic. That's again very important, that the tasks you give to your children to do, they are, first of all, you are simple. There's nothing in you which is kind of, showing off either your knowledge or your jewelry or any other thing, but you're a simple teacher. And the child is able to see that mother in you. When the young child comes to you, it should be like this. And you have to give some responsibilities to those children and make them feel that kind of, get that adventurous feeling, that feeling that I did it, sense of achievement. So give them tasks which you feel that this particular child will be able to do. That's why I said you have to be realistic. Don't overestimate your children, don't underestimate your children. Give, following multiple intelligences and other things, give them the tasks which you feel that this particular child will be able to do this and the other one will be able to do that. So when children are able to do that task, they'll be very happy. And nothing can make the child feel better if the teacher has given a task and he is able to do that.
One
So
of
I
the
think
things that comes to my mind, ma'am, we have said exactly, very good things as to what kind of, how do we engage with them and how do we interact with them. Now, there are two aspects that that come to my mind. One is this whole business about, as you rightly said, children today want to be treated differently, and maybe that's not how teachers are used to treating children. They still
very
want.
right. Yes.
So that's one aspect. And the second aspect is also sometimes when we have kids from a particular economic class. Because I was talking, I remember I visited Mayo College once, and me and Pramod Sharma were going to the mess. And one of the things that he told me there was, that there is a huge problem of disciplining students at Mayo, because ये लोग समझते हैं कि they are on top of everything because they are, from more flourishing families or powerful families. So do you also think that the economics and the self uh, pride of kids has altered the way the teacher and the students would want to interact now?
See, you have to be very, very, very much tactical right from day one. Day one is very important when you actually set the ball rolling. And there would be difference, someone coming from a rich background and the other one not so rich and all. But then, if you are making a child who's not from a rich background, if you are giving him a task which he is able to accomplish, that sense of pride will naturally come in that child, and the other children who are watching him will also understand. They will not know the trick behind this, that the teacher has given him a simpler task and to me she is giving a difficult task. But then they will also start feeling कि नहीं, ये बच्चा भी कर सकता है. So that respect will start coming in, and once that respect is there, I think the gap between the rich and poor would naturally reduce. So these are some strategies that you can attempt to make an attempt to reduce the gaps and make the affluent feel not so much high on top of the world types. But and it's very important to bring them at the ground level if ever you feel that they are trying to fly very high. So right in the beginning, give them a task which kind of brings them down ki, no, I was wrong, this is something that I'm lacking and I need to work upon. So teachers have to be very much tactful in handling these issues, and so that everyone is respected and everyone feels wanted, and everyone feels that my teacher, my class had something for me today.
So the age of demanding respect is over, and now we will have to come to a point where we command respect through our own behavior and through our
Yes.
own. So let me just move to Mrs. Sani very quickly. Ma'am, in your view, what should be the ideal teacher-student relationship? Maybe you can compare different classes also. Maybe in primary it would be different, and secondary it would be different. Now, I remember when I started teaching, at Tulane University, we were told one thing, that be friendly with students, but don't be their friends. And sometimes, because if we are too close to them, that could also really jeopardize. There could be legal issues involved. You really can't pat a senior girl's back, because if you're a male student, so you might be seen as violating certain norms, accepted norms. So what is the real in your view, what is the kind of relationship that's a healthy, positive relationship between teacher and student? Mrs. Sani, over to you.
Thank you, Atul, and greetings to all the panelists. And I will come to your question, Atul. But to start with, you saying talking about a rivalry between modern and DPS, let me tell you, I represent an amalgamation of the two, because I can boast of a background from both these great institutions. And thank you for bringing me in touch with a long lost colleague of 10 years, Lekha from DPS Dubai, who's watching us as we speak. And hello, Lekha, and thank you, Atul. So
Thank you.
coming back to the question, Atul, I cannot answer it in a very straightforward way, but I'd like to very quickly give you two examples from my own life, which I will, kind of condense into my response to your question. So one is, a long time ago, I had an experience as a principal with a teacher where on a certain discharge of duty, the teacher went wrong. Now, because there were the safety of children was involved, I lost my temper. And of course, we both had good intentions. There's no doubt about that. But I lost my temper and real bad. And I said things which perhaps in hindsight, I thought as an adult and a mature person, I shouldn't have. And I told the teacher that what if it were your child, which was, of course, a very natural reaction as far as I went. But because of the circumstance of it, the teacher felt very upset. And the issue, of course, took a back seat. But there was a cold war between that teacher and me for the next half decade almost. And I'm sure that we both understood where we were coming from, but it didn't work out. Now, after almost about 5 years, there came an occasion where God was kind, and things got sorted out, and we sat together talking to each other. And she said something, and that changed my worldview in that one statement. She said to me, "Meenakshi ma'am, but you were the principal. And you know what? When you say something to us, it becomes like, okay, if I can say 100x." So that was a very big statement for me. And that day and today, I understand that if a principal is talking to a teacher, an issue can become a conversation, or a statement can become acquire dimensions of 100x. From a teacher to a child, where there's also an age gap involved, it becomes like 1000x. So what a teacher says to a child is of a much larger dimension, proportion, depth, call it what, for a child. So it boils down to one word: communication. The second example is, I was a very average student in my higher at the secondary level, and considered myself very stage shy. Wouldn't come forward. I was intelligent enough, but due to whatever circumstance, I couldn't even stand on the stage and talk. Now, it so happened that our students' council was being elected, and the nominees for this council were recommended by the Mother Superior, who's the highest ever in a school. And I never thought I would have ever been one of the possible choices. But when the names were announced, my name was announced as one of those. Now, you won't believe it that one announcement changed my body language thereafter. I must have walked into the auditorium with my shoulders slouched and my head bent, and I came out looking different. So I come back to the same word. It's all about and boils down to communication. And to add to all of that, I'd add two more words. They are respect and empathy. So if respect, empathy, and communication are taken in the right spirit by the teacher, the taught is automatically going to be a dream child. And of course, we'll have a dream world. And I'll get into that when you give me another 5 minutes. But at this point, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much for elaborating. And I think you've actually said, the essence of everything is communication and the interaction and the communication. But
Yes.
a lot of times, what happens is that this communication is biased by our own mindsets and certain belief systems that we have. So, for example, I know that, teachers have this habit of passing information about the naughty kids from one batch to another. And on the very first day, when you go to the class, you want to make a list of all the students who are troublemakers and make sure that you keep them, and so what happens is that you start dealing with those kids with the premise that they are troublemakers. So one of the strong things, and I'll ask that to Charu ma'am, if you could, because there are obstacles in creating those positive interactions, and our own mindsets, our belief systems are some of the obstacles. So how, and even students can have these obstacles, because of which negative relationships start emerging in every classroom. So what are some of the ways that teachers can prevent negative relationships to develop with a student? I think that's also important to address.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Atul, and thank you for having me here, and greetings to all the panelists. Yes, the last thing that we were talking about, and having relations proper with the students, um, we have to handle it with care. And here I say CARE with a, well, C is for Code of Professional Conduct. We have to see to it that when we say being friendly and being friends, okay, so you have to have that difference. How to do it? I can be friendly, I have to be friendly with the students. I have to empower my students, and when I'm doing that, I will be in turn empowering myself too. That each teacher has to understand. In when I'm empowering the students, I get empowered myself because my classes would be more better. Then, when you talked about teachers passing the information, acquiring knowledge is important. But when we acquire knowledge, it should not be kind of a gossip that happened in the staff room. It should not be a staff room gossip. It should not take turn. It should be acquiring knowledge to take care of maybe some misbehavior in the classroom, or acquiring knowledge about how to improve the student participation in various programs. Then we have to follow some reflective practices. That what is R when I say CARE? So R is for reflective practices, where you take care that what worked with the students. And here, when you said, Mr. Atul, that why the students, why there is a gap. So here, reflective practices will work. Where it can, the gap may be because of, as you said, the students are absenting themselves because they don't find there is much enthusiasm in the school. So the teacher has to be very enthusiastic when she is coming to the class. We have to understand that we are there to enthrall our audience, kind of always ready. So I have to be ready with my lecture, one. And then, as Meenakshi ma'am said, that we have to know the pulse of the students and how to tackle that. So a teacher has to be really very tactful. So and she would be able to do that if, one thing, she is strong with her subject, and then she knows how to make her subject interesting, coming down to the level, and involving each and every child in various activities. Ma'am also talked about multiple intelligences. A teacher who's able to handle multiple intelligences and involve each kind of child in her class. Maybe there are students in the class who are coming from a economically weaker section, so they would require a different kind of connection. She has to be empathetic about that. And then you were talking about students being coming from a affluent family or something. Then a kind of relationship with the parent is also very important. When we say a student teacher relation, there has to be a good relationship with the parents, so that many a times it is heard that at home the parent is saying, हम तेरी टीचर को देख लेंगे, तू फिक्र ना कर. ऐसी तरह की बात आ जाती है ना, especially from the affluent families. So that kind of rapport has to be made, and that has to come from the head of the institute, where she talks to the parents, develops a rapport, and then it percolates to the teachers also, that parents get their due respect, and it is a give and take. We empower you and you empower us, kind of a thing. So engaging with the last E in the care, when I say CARE, one was the code of conduct, and A was for acquiring knowledge about the student, R is for the reflective practices, and E is you should ensure that you are not alone. Engage with other teachers and understand, maybe your supervisory heads or coordinator or principal, if there is something required to have a good student-teacher relationship. Many a times it happens that when a teacher is new, then she finds it difficult to engage with the students, to build a rapport with the students, and then she feels that she's not able to deliver her lessons. In that case, it is the duty of the school head or the coordinator of that department to come in and make the teacher also understand that first seek to understand and then to be understood.
I think you've raised very, very good points, and I like the acronym CARE also. But I'll also share with you that this problem of parent interfering in a teacher-student relationship is not just in affluent families or big schools. In fact, if you go to smaller schools, I was talking to some school owners in smaller towns of Punjab, and they said that wahan par, even if you stop a farmer or a person from the village to enter the school, and you don't want to meet them, there is a big ruckus that could happen. They take it up on their ego as to why can't the principal meet me when I want to meet him. There is no guard system, and there is no appointment system that we in our schools in Delhi are used to. So yet this problem is also prevalent in smaller areas also. a lot.
I would come in here, Mr. Atul. Like it's not only us, we are farmers, etc. Like I am from Gurgaon, and we have people who are from maybe panchayat se hai ya kuch, है ना? So first of all, as I said, seek to understand, then to be understood. Sorry. So here, first of all, I have to understand that I am strong, okay? And if I come down a little and maybe go out to meet the parent in the beginning, then it would set a tone. It is kind of the relationship when then it goes into the society. Okay, the principal of that school does listen, so आप फिक्र ना करें. अगर पहले से ही होगा ना, वो तो सुनती नहीं है, वो अपने आप को महारानी समझती है, कुछ इस तरह का अगर बात आने शुरू हो जाती है, then all the such things come. So I also was faced with such problems, but touch wood, I was able to handle, maybe. Yes.
Good. I'm glad you're safe. One of the other things, and Sangeeta, I'll come to you with that question. One of the other things that is worrying a lot of teachers is that creating healthy student-teacher relationship was getting challenging even in the normal setting. But now with these virtual classes, and none of us know when this is going to end, when we will have kids back into the classroom, it's even a lot more challenging. So, what are some of the things that teachers can do uh, to build that relationship in a virtual learning mode?
Greeting to all the panelists, and yes, it is very relevant question that you have asked, and we are all, there is not a straight answer. Something works somewhere, something works somewhere else. So it depends upon the student and the situation and the subject, and then how the teachers are handling. And yes, since the situation has never came up earlier, and this virtual classrooms were not there earlier, uh, it is still a trial and tested method. But what I have seen is the teachers who had a good repo earlier, they're able to do it in a better way in the virtual classroom also. And the teachers who never had that kind of a I won't use the word authority, but they were not able to engage the students in a physical classroom. They had a difficulty in the virtual classroom also. So one thing that is very very important, and one of the participants have also mentioned it in the chat section, and I agree with it. The first thing is that we need to engage the child in a very fruitful manner. The kind of activities that you are involving, the kind of variety that you are involving in your classroom is going to make a lot of difference. Now, in the virtual classroom, yes, you have to break that monotony which is there in the virtual classroom. If it is only a monologue that you are speaking and the cameras are off, and then keep on saying that please keep your camera on, or who is disturbing, who is not disturbing, you need to have a different kind of activity. So one thing that worked very quickly is a small quiz in between, small poll in between. There are tools which are available. If we use it in between, and you get the attention of the student, because in the physical classroom you can ask the child, and you can teachers were trained into it. But here a poll, or using a whiteboard, and taking there are many apps where you present the same content in a story way. All these things, if you bring variety in your classroom and engage the child in a fruitful manner, it will definitely help. And also having the empathy at that particular time, there may be a genuine reason why the camera is not on. There may be a genuine reason why the child is not able to speak. So always give that benefit of doubt to the child. We all need to understand as teachers that we need to have that trust quotient more. The moment that trust quotient we are going to have less, that relationship will go down. And as an elder and as a mature person, it's us who have to take that step. Once you take that step and give the benefit of doubt to the child, and yes, I would say many a time, because they are children. And if you set an example, and if you talk to them as an adult with respect, everybody respond. And as you're remembering Professor Srivastava, you remember, I also learned from him, and you, my colleague, you know it. Why we used to remember him? Because he used to treat us as an equal. he used to treat us as a respectable people, and he used to talk to us not from the above, but as a group, as if he wants to discuss something. And many a time when he was teaching mathematics, used to connect it with the with the life, and he used to know about us. So that kind of a relationship, if it is there, so whether you are there in the physical world or a physical classroom or in the virtual classroom, it is not going to make a difference. It's a respect between, I won't say respect for the teacher, I would say the respect for the teacher and the student relationship. It's not about student having a respect for the teacher, it is also about teacher having a respect for the students. So what is lacking right now is that this respect is going down from both the sides. I won't say it is only from the student, it is also from the teacher's side. So we need to remember, if we have these two, and the first, who has to do this first? The teachers have to do it first. If we do it, it will develop. And when you speak to someone with respect, and we are all adults here, and we all have our experiences, no one will talk to you with disrespect. But how? And one thing is very, very important, and I think as teachers, we all have seen it, that you should always appreciate. And if you have to reprimand, you have to do it in private. To a teenager and to a 10-year-old, now the ego is so high. If you do it in front of 10 people, you're going to have it.
Yeah.
So we need to take care of it. All these things, if we take care of it, I think this respect will grow and we will have a fruitful class. So engage your child, treat him or her with respect, and have empathy, be a good listener. Don't have a grudge against anyone, because we all say it in a heat of a moment. It will tremendously help in building up a positive relationship. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. You are so right. I think it's very important. We all, because we are intellectuals, because we are teachers, we focus too much on cognitive transfer of knowledge. तो हमारा ध्यान दिमाग की तरफ ज्यादा रहता है. I think as teachers we need to focus on the heart a lot more. जब दिल से दिल मिल जाते हैं तो सब दरवाजे खुल जाते हैं. I think that's the crux of the matter, when it comes to creating those relationships. And वो दिल से दिल मिलाने के लिए, I think it's very, very important to know the person.
And I would like to say this thing. I always tell my teachers that if you have to, what you are saying, that we are all emotional people. So agar aapne uski heart ko touch kar diya, that child is going to do everything for you.
Yes.
Because when we have this kind of a discussion for our board result, ye to padhta hi nahi hai, ye to karta hi nahi hai. So we always say you are not able to touch that child, and touch that child emotionally. As you say, you were giving an example for your teacher. I know many of my students, they used to work the work for me, and all the teachers used to complain, ye mathematics hi karte rehte hain aur kuch kaam hi nahi karte hain. So then I say you have to bring them to that that level, that they have to do your work. So hum unka kaam karenge, aapka nahi karenge. I don't know how they decide, but I think that comes from the respect and the love that we cultivate, and it takes time, and every relationship needs hard work. We
Yes.
all have to remember.
And before I forget, let me clarify what I mean by dil se dil milana. Don't start dating your customers. All I meant was there should be a connection between, you can't just, because there's a big law against dating your students, okay? So all you have to do is respect them emotionally and unki dil ki bhavna ko samjho, or that's how you deal with them. So it's time for me to start taking questions. We have some wonderful question. So, Vinita Mathur, are you there online? Do you want to ask your question? Sudhanshu, is Vinita there? Yep, she's there. Vinita, go ahead.
What I wanted to ask was,
Okay, we lost Vinita. I'll put her question. Vinita
hello,
yeah, Vinita, go ahead.
sir, I wanted to ask that there are many children who are very intelligent, and they go to certain institutes and they learn extra, and then they come back to the class and try to show off. In that process, they tend to disrespect the teacher. So, what
M-
is your comment on that?
Wow.
May
So
I
How should the
answer?
teacher handle such a situation?
May I answer that, please?
I'll go to Mrs. Kushwaha first, and then I'll come to you because you've been on air for the last 10 minutes. तो वो सो जाएंगे बाकी के सब पैनलिस्ट. So, ma'am, this
Okay.
problem you would have a lot in your school.
See, the problems and good things and bad things, they're all same in every school, I would say. Wherever we have children, issues are the same. And before I answer Vinita's question, I would like to thank you because you have reconnected me to Nidhi Soni, I think after 20 years. And I'm so glad to see you, to get a message from you, Nidhi, and God bless. So Vinita, coming to your question, you said that children go to the coaching centers and they feel that the school teachers are not competent enough to answer their hi-fi questions and all. So, this is not a problem with you. I think it's a problem everywhere, and we should not take it as a problem. The thing is that, we did our MSc, BEd, or whatever we studied long back, and we have not bothered to kind of when we say we, I mean most of us, we have not bothered to upgrade ourselves. And probably what we studied in our MSc, children are studying now in class 12th. So when they go to coaching center, first of all, no matter what they are doing, they might be doing very bad over there. But then, they will pick up a tough, so-called tough question and put it up in the classroom. And if the teacher doesn't know that question, know the answer of that question, children get a kind of sadistic pleasure. So for this, number one, it is very important for us to upgrade ourselves, keep upgrading, because we know now our children are going to these so-called coaching centers as well. So we must be upgrading ourselves as well. And two, if at any point of time you don't know the answer of a question which the child has put up, uh, the situations do come. So say, I don't know, I'll get back to you tomorrow. So find out the answer and get back to the child tomorrow that what the answer would be. Or ask the child that what do you think it should be. So there's no harm in saying I don't know the answer, or involving the child into a kind of collaborative research that you think and you both sit and talk and find out the answer. Make them participative into the process of finding answer to the question which neither you know nor your child nor your student knows. So there's no harm, and the child will only have a respect for you because in the process he has also enjoyed. He sat with you, chatted, worked, thought of the answer, and you learned many more things beyond this. So this is one way that you need not show that you are offended or you are feeling bad. The moment you feel that this child is purposely asking this question to me because he knows he's trying to offend me, he knows I'll not be able to answer, I think you've lost the battle. If you don't know the answer, say, I don't know, I'll get back to you, or let's both sit together and do some research on this. There's no harm. Children have to be treated as equals, I think. And upgrading your own knowledge, knowing that children know much more, or they might ask much more, is not a bad idea.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope, Vinita, that answers your question. Do we have Sheetal? Sheetal, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yeah, your question is very long, so make it
I'll try to explain it to you. It is like, it so happens that in this virtual setup, however, our teachers have played an excellent role in creating a rapport between the children and themselves. But however, there are certain parents who at times, they try to interfere so much that the child is not able to pay attention. So I being heading the preschool section, so nursery for that matter, in nurseries it has so happened that teachers have developed this rapport between themselves and the kids. But the over enthusiastic parents, over anxious parents, what they're doing is they're not allowing the kids to to build that relationship between themselves and the teacher. So in that case, how do we deal with such parents? Like, we have been calling them, we tell them that you cannot be with the child for long. You should be there for a while, for example, say for a week or so, till the child gets adjusted to the virtual setup, because it's preschool. So after that, how do we deal with such parents?
Mrs. Sani, I think you would have parents like that in your school, right? Who just want to be watching their kids all the time and obsessed by children, especially in the lower classes. They are so. I mean, do you see anything common between what Sheetal is facing, and what would you suggest her?
Um, well, very frankly, the incidence of this sort of a thing happening is not very, very high in our school. And of course, you have parents there, but we also, I used the word empathy earlier. We have to understand that none of us were educated to be parents. We all become parents by default or default or design. And thereafter, we learn as we grow. So that enthusiasm is something very, very natural for some who are very, ambitious for their children. And I think instead of talking to them in terms of you cannot do, etc., we have to explain to them the logic of why is it that their intervention is likely to disrupt all the classroom proceedings. How will the other children be affected? How will their own child be divided in attention? And it's very important for children to develop, or to inculcate skills in children to pay attention to what is, because that's one of the biggest challenges that we face today, where children can't remain focused. And it's at the very young age, the formative stages, that even if it's we doing 5 minutes of attention is a big thing. And I wonder if you've been reading that because of mobile phones and all, nowadays our attention spans have become something like 6 to 8 seconds, and we swipe screens thereafter. So to imagine that children without any supervision will be able to remain focused is of course too much to expect. And then parents are also there, they have to be there to support them. We will have to be kind, we will have to be understanding about it, and talk to parents on the side to say, well, this is how it can get affected, or this is how you can help us. And I think things get sorted. You may have very, very few cases where parents will take offense to that sort of a thing. And plus, of course, as far as teaching methodologies are concerned, parents are not trained in those. You are. And if you have them on your side by telling them how it will create confusions and chaos in the mind of the child if they were to deal with two kinds of methods to do the same thing, there'll be less, the learning outcomes will be affected. And I'm sure parents will understand. And you could have separate sessions with the parents, maybe to such parents or the whole lot of parents, on a very regular basis, to explain these things to them. And I think it should be a breeze after that.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am. And I have a very interesting question. So this is from anonymous attendee, so I can't call her on the thing, but let me just read it out. Good evening. I'm a new teacher in preschool. I have joined the school in the middle of the year in this new normal. Though I have developed a good rapport with the children, I am lacking confidence whenever the class is about to start. I'm always nervous. And also, when there is a meeting with parents, I always think I will not be able to handle the parents. Any suggestions on how to be confident when taking classes and talking to parents? Charu ma'am, you want to give some suggestions? Go ahead. Just unmute yourself. Yeah.
So, first of all, my advice, or I would say to the teacher, is that please talk to your seniors. Here, your seniors have to pitch in. Some micro teaching lessons have to be designed by the principal, the head of the school, and the head of the department, where she talked, because you are a new person, and yes, you said it right, it is the new normal. No one had learned it this way, and that ways you also have an advantage, isn't it? No one knew how to handle this, and you are there. Fine. So others are learning, so you learn with them. So like you have said your concern here, and here also you have not said your name. So first of all, you understand that it's no harm to make mistakes. We have to learn from mistake. It's normal. It's okay to not to be okay. First of all, learn this. Okay, when we learn this, then there won't be a fear of failure. When do we fear this? When we have a fear of failure, then we feel that there's going to be something wrong. Like today, before the panel discussion, I also had some butterflies that when I speak, it should be fine, and whatever comes out of my mouth should not go wrong. So it's normal, fine. So first of all, this, and then speak out your concern to your supervisory head or your coordinator or your principal, or maybe a senior teacher. There should be someone, maybe you would be having some department meetings, I'm sure. So please raise your concern there, where they should be talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Charuji. Okay, I have some people who have raised their hands. Nutan Singh, are you there with us? Nutan, Rita, and Vandana. Just please unmute yourself. Okay, so that's Vandana, right? Vandana, do you have a question? Okay, Rita, do you have a question? Sudhanshu, if they don't have a question, then we can remove them. Maybe they by mistake, they raise their hands. So I'll go back to my another anonymous attendee. I'm a preschool teacher. As student move ahead, they stop respecting and obeying the preschool teachers or do not listen to the preschool teachers. On this regard, how do we handle this situation? Sangeeta, you want to take this up? So preschool teachers are not respected, I think is the question.
I think this is just a phase because let me tell you, my experience says that the children remember their pre-primary teachers the most. Yeah. They remember who was their first teacher and they come back to them with love and care and affection, which I would say that this kind of a thing I always used to tell my teachers they were in the pre-primary that they don't love us that much, the PGTs, as they love their primary and pre-primary teachers. But what you are feeling is also genuine. I agree with you. Some of the teachers do feel like that when they pass them in the corridor, they don't turn up and they say good morning or they wish you up or the way they used to do it earlier. This is just a growing up phase. We don't have to take that so much seriously. A. B, if there is any program in the school where all the teachers is being involved, it is very, very natural way of children growing up because average student will behave like that. There are some exemplary student who always, go back and will greet. And maybe at that particular time, the child is lost in his or her thought, or the other way around. It's not that they are not respecting you. If you will just talk to them, they are respecting you. First of all, you have to remove this kind of a notion. um, there may be one or two students, but we should not say generally it is happening. Generally, students do respect their teachers, and pre-primary teachers, they love them, believe me, they do.
And I think somewhere the definition and the expression of respect has also changed.
Yes.
The way we used to respect our elders, हम लोग पाँव छू के respect करते थे. Now my niece or my nephew don't believe in that kind of respect. If they acknowledge my presence in the room, I think that is respect. Otherwise, if they don't even acknowledge me, that's called disrespectful. So I think somewhere the whole definition of respect has also changed. Like
yes.
So we can't expect them to respect us the way we respected our elders. So I think that's important. Now, one of the few things that I was when I was reading about this topic slightly and looking at my own journey as a teacher, um, it's extremely difficult for any teacher, no matter how well intentional that teacher is, not to sometimes have a negative relationship with a student. So sometimes negative relationships do emerge. Maybe we reprimanded somebody, maybe we scolded somebody, maybe we tried to, correct that person in some manner. Maybe we shouted too harshly on a student who is very sensitive. So sometimes those negative relationships do emerge. Now, when that happens in a classroom, I think we as teachers need to take corrective measures to fix that problem and rebuild that relationship. The onus is probably on us. So, what I would like to do is we have already talked about what we can do to build strong relationships. I want to hear your views, all of you, maybe, whatever your experiences or views, where a teacher can actually rebuild a negative relationship into a positive relationship, and what would be that strategy? What would the child had to do? So I'll start with Mrs. Sani. Over to you. And also, this could be your, the last 2-minute address also. So anything else beyond that also that you would like to say? I'll give 2 minutes to each one of you to wrap it up for your closing statement, and then I'll wrap up the show. Meenakshi ji, over to you. Mrs. Sani.
Yeah, thank you, Atul. So my last word on this would be, Atul, and to all my friends there, is a strong recommendation that we get into the technique of active learning, which is a technique proposed by Carl Rogers and Richard Farson in 1957. It is all right to expect a lot of things from other people, but active listening does not come easy to all of us. So there are the highlights of this technique include, listening and not talking when two people are face to face, holding back from talking in place of listening, not finishing the other person's sentences, focusing on your body language and the body language of the other person, noticing the little things, trying to go deeper into the conversation rather than keeping it a surface level conversation. They say that's the most romantic gift you can give to a person, by listening to a person, without any to others' anxieties, without judgment or solutions, and just listen to the other person as an analyst might. So that's one thing which I would strongly recommend that all educators out there do, to look up active listening on the internet and acquaint yourself with it, and maybe put it into practice for your personal growth at home also, and of course in a professional setting. The other thing is to overcome some instincts which are inborn and are very natural in us, and they come naturally to all of us in various contexts and settings, not only education. I'll give examples, like there is something called a gap instinct. When the other person, and a gap instinct can be classified when you have a tendency to categorize things and people and settings. So as a teacher, I know more, the child cannot know as much as me. That's a gap instinct. I have to be conscious as a teacher of this. The negativity instinct. I am feeling negative about a certain child always. Why? Because there is some prejudices, some biases I have. The child doesn't dress up the way I like. The child doesn't listen to me. So as a teacher, I have to overcome instincts such as this. A negativity instinct, when I feel it's rising up in me as an educator, I have to make a conscious effort to suppress it. Or a generalization instinct. Say every teacher is calling this child a bad child or a discipline problem. So for me, this child is also a discipline problem. But who knows, the child is carrying a lot of baggage that I'm not aware of. The blame instinct, always blaming a particular child because everybody else is blaming. So there are a lot of these instincts that come up. A single perspective instinct. This child is a bully. X is saying he's a bully. Y is saying he's a bully. So what do? I also follow that path. So as conscious practitioners, we have to remember, reflective practitioners, that we have to be very conscious of instincts that are clouding our judgment, and try and overcome them when we converse with children. So if I'm checking a child in the morning for not standing correctly in the assembly, my attention will also go to his uniform suddenly and say, but oh, your tie is also not out of place. Oh, but you do this also in the class. So, but I lose my focus. What is it that I'm talking about at that point? Now, if we are as teachers conscious of these things, I think we'll be able to build more solid relationships with our children and, of course, the other community around us. Thank you very much, Atul.
Very well said, ma'am. In fact, the way you were talking, I was thinking that, we offer a program. It's a 3-week program called Reset, which ICSL has been organizing. And during the third week of the program, we focus a lot on teacher-student relationship. And whatever we have said is exactly what we cover in depth during that course. So very well put in 2 minutes. I didn't know that I could actually put it in all 2 minutes, but thank you. I'm going to use your recording in the course also. Charu ma'am, your closing statements, and then I'll come to Sangeeta, and then Mrs. Kushwaha, I'll come to you as the last stamp on the show. So Charu ma'am, to you.
Okay, yeah. So I would say that you be the mirror. To teachers, you have the power to show the students what they are. Like you can make a cat think that he or she is actually a lioness or tigress or tiger. Okay, so you have that power. And when someone was saying that students do not respect the teachers, junior teachers or someone, what's the harm? You go and say, hello, how are you? You look so good. So you can develop that kind of a relation if you are feeling. And sometimes it happens that we ourselves are maybe not confident of ourselves. We feel कि अब हम छोटे teacher रह गए. तो कभी अपने आप को छोटा नहीं समझना. You are the ones who were the foundation stones of the students. They all love the kindergarten teachers, and that is my experience. But if you are feeling that way, have that confidence in yourself that agar aap nahi hote to foundation kaun deta. Okay. And I would say for the students, teachers, belief is the source of a child's power. So build in that belief, and new belief stems from the success and infusion of new power that it brings into the students. So bring it into the students that yes, you believe in them. And I have seen miracles happen in this manner. Students who were not performing at all had started performing if the teacher showed a belief. So that is the kind of relationship that we talk of when we say teacher student relation. And the teacher should be conscious of how power dynamics establishes in their classrooms and how they can embrace each dynamics to empower as opposed to oppress the students. We do not have to think that I have to oppress the student. I know during the discussion this has come out very nicely that we have to empower the students for their creativity, for their independence and critical thinking. And if we are able to do that, I'm sure the relationship that comes out of it would be beautiful, and the students are going to love you forever.
Thank you, ma'am. You've made a very good point. I think it's very important that students need to believe in their teachers. I think if a student feels that you will help him academically, not just academically, but you'll also help him in life, and that they can come and share their problems with you, their personal problems with you, which teenagers have a lot. I think that's the right place where I would say a healthy relationship has started, which is a person-to-person relationship. Sangeeta ji, over to you, 2 minutes.
Okay, Atul, I'll try to make it. I think whatever the panelist is sharing, I would agree with that. And I will reiterate this thing that teacher, do not treat yourself as a friend to them. They have enough friends with themselves. Be your mentor, and mentor can be a friendly person. And identify the positive qualities of your student. And every child is special. Please believe in it. Once you go with this belief to the class that every child is special, I think that relationship will start building up from that point of view, because everyone is different. We all over here have our own point of view, the different perspective. When we start respecting it as an elders, they are going to respect you as such. Uh, Always do not ever think that any issue is trivial for the children, because teenager, whatever you think is a very trivial thing for you, it is not for them. So do not trivialize their things. When you are listening to it, listen it with as a non-judgmental thing, because when we say good listener means there should be no bias on it, and non-judgmental listening has to be done. It should be a bouncer to you, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it. That's a different thing that you can take it up later when the child has said everything to you. and keep it as a secret. Don't make it as a gossip, because if you share it with any other person, that trust is lost and the child is never ever going to trust you. So the same, make your classroom interesting. When you make your classroom interesting, have variety in it, play music in your classroom, have emotional corner, have some time, and don't treat yourself very important and don't take yourself very seriously. If you bring humor into your class, it is really, really going to help you. You laugh on yourself and then you allow the children to laugh at you at some time. Not in a degradatory manner, but yes, in a positive manner. It really helps and lightens up the whole classroom situation. So I think these are the things. If we take it up in this, we are going to make a difference to a child's life.
I think very well put, and it's very important. Even research says that for teachers to play with their students, spend time playing with them. It's very important to build a good relationship. And I remember when you said, about humor, mere saath, there was a different kind of problem. When I used to even, be strict to my kids sometimes in my classrooms. Obviously, they were bigger kids because I taught calculus and senior classes. They never took me seriously because they thought that everything that I said was a joke, and they kept laughing with me, and I was really being very serious. So I had to tell them that I'm going to make sure that you don't attend classes from tomorrow, and they would just take it as a joke. So sometimes I think that was the problem I had. But humor in the classroom, playing with them, go play a game of pool, play badminton with them, play table tennis with them. When I say play, I mean actually play. And I think that's a great way to build some relationships. Mrs. Meenakshi Kushwaha, over to you for your statement, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Atul. And I think you spoke about that how the relationship um, is supposed to be rebuilt if for some reason we have spoilt that and I shouted or whatever, and I feel that the relationship has been spoilt, and how as a teacher I would like to rebuild. Now, of course, it's my responsibility as a teacher to rebuild the relationship because, very rightly said, हमें बच्चों से बराबरी नहीं करनी है. We have to take the lead at all times. And through this process also, we are teaching children indirectly that, okay, something has gone wrong. It is your duty to repair it, be it be relationship or anything. So don't take it to heart, but try rebuilding the relationship which has gone wrong. So in the process that you made an attempt as a teacher to rebuild that relationship, you've taught children something which is very important in life. Now, secondly, coming to the question, I feel that if my relationship with my children is strong, is very strong, I don't think that once I shouted at them or I was not very good to them, my student will feel very bad about it. I mean, the relation should be so strong that my child should think that, oh, there's something terribly wrong with teacher, with my ma'am, that she has behaved like this. In fact, the child should start pitying me that what's wrong, why am I behaving like this? So I feel that the relationship has to be so strong that instead of the child feeling offended, he has started pitying me and maybe asks, ma'am, is everything all right? Why are you behaving like this? So that is one thing. And secondly, if at all it happens, it has happened, I have shouted and the child has felt humiliated. I shouted more than that I should have, and the child has felt humiliated. And again, I come back to what I said in the very beginning was, let's be very simple. Let's be simple human beings and handle the way you handle these issues at home. I think these happen every day at home with our own children. So how do we handle these issues at home? There's no ego or anything that comes forward. So why should the ego come here? So handle them like your own children and tackle them the same way. And I don't say you need to go back and apologize or something for that. But yes, if need be, there's no harm that I shouldn't have been this much and so loud or whatever. I mean, trust me, by statements like these, children only respect you more. And it's not that you said sorry or something, the child will start thinking that this teacher is useless and she's apologizing. No, your respect will be more, will grow more, and handle these issues in a very simple manner, like you handle them every day at home. So this is my advice,
May I
and
just
don't
come in for
linger
1
it
minute?
on.
Thank you,
Don't
ma'am. No,
linger.
Charu,
Don't let it linger.
I cannot now change it. We are already past time. Just two.
Atul, just one last 30 seconds.
Yes, ma'am.
So
30
don't
seconds.
let the issue linger on, you know. It's better to, I mean, calm it down and your goal to get over this as soon as possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. To all my attendees, let me tell you that each sentence spoken by the panelists here is going to change the way you look at teacher-student relationships. My advice to you is, I know that in 1 hour, so many things have been brought up. You would not retain 100% of it. And for that reason, we make sure that Sudhanshu will upload the video of this wonderful program on our website. Please go there, re-look at it, and pause and think as to what is being said and how you can practically apply that in your classrooms. Where are you going wrong? Because जितना ज्ञान टीचर स्टूडेंट रिलेशनशिप में 1 घंटे में यहाँ पर दिया गया है on Friday at 5, I doubt if anywhere else you will be able to get it. And for that reason, please come back on next Friday. We are going to be talking about another very important aspect, which is changing school cultures beyond 2021. So how will school cultures change because of NEP and because of blended learning? We'll discuss that. And I thank all my panelists, Meenakshi ji, Mrs. Kushwaha, Mrs. Sahani, Dr. Arora, and Charu Meniji, for taking out time at such a short notice. I really owe you guys. So anything that I can do for you, just let me know. I'll respond. Thank you so much.